Vapor face! What's up, Vape fam? Sorteal here, and welcome to the Vaporworks lab. Now, recently I've been going over a lot of mechanical mod stuff, and essentially that's because mechanical tube mods and mech mods in general are kind of those devices that will just last you a lifetime. With all the insanity going on around the world, but especially here in the States surrounding vaping, these are kind of the devices that will help you become a little bit more vape independent. If you kind of get into DIY, get into mech mods, get into coil building, at that point, really there's not much that Uncle Sam or any other government body can do to kind of prevent you from vaping at that point. So today I actually want to go over different types of constant contact switches. Now, we already took this heavy hitter switch apart, and one of the switches we're going to look at is almost identical. It just doesn't have the locking mechanism or the quarter turn quick release that this switch does, but you know, it's nearly identical, and it's also kind of the most common type of constant contact switch that you're going to run into. Maybe not exactly, but the overall principle of how this switch works is really the most common out there. But then we'll go over two others that are slightly different. That way, whenever you do kind of get a hold of a mech tube, you'll have an idea of what type of switch you're working with. So let's take a look at these guys. All right, so this is the Dreamer 1.5 switch. Like I said, it's very similar to the heavy hitter one, and really it should be, because Stan Tenacious TX Vapes had a hand in both of them, and they're both manufactured by Times Vape. This is the Tarn Max switch. It uses a ball and plates type of contact mechanism. Unicorn Vapes is also a big fan of the ball and plates type of switch mechanism. And then this is the switch for the Trisha V2. This is actually a magnetic switch, which is probably one of my favorites. Purge also has a magnetic switch that I like very much. So we'll take a look at all these. Let's take the Dreamer switch apart first, basically because we've already kind of looked at it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. Just like the heavy hitter, you got your two little notches. See if we can get our tweezers in here and get it started. There we go. And once you get it so far out, you can kind of hand turn it. I think I've probably got it. Yeah. Now I can just hand turn it. This outer ring is really just to hold everything in place, so you know your contact right there doesn't move around on top of that spring. Contact portion sits on the spring. Dome section right there. Take your spring out, and you've got that ball mechanism that's attached to your button. Comes up, makes contact with that dome. Now, unlike the heavy hitter, we actually have to use our tweezers to get this off of here and to get the button off. So let's see if we can do this. There we go. You just kind of turn it. Eventually that button will come out enough that we can just hand turn the button. All right, I should be there now. There we go. Now we can hand turn it. And just like the heavy hitter, once you get this button off, there's just a spring there, and that button connects directly to that ball segment. Now inside of this, actually, let me take this all the way out, even though it's a pain in the ass to get back in. You will see another spring down inside here. That's what's called a canted spring, and that's really just to help with conductivity. All right, let's put this whole thing back together, especially since we've already looked at it before. If I can get this ball segment in here without damaging that canted spring. There we go. All right, put your spring over top of that. Just kind of hold on to that ball section with your finger. Get your button started. There we go. Then with this one, you kind of want to line up these protrusions right here on the casing with these indentations on the switch or the button. And you just push it up, and you can actually hand turn this little ball segment here. And normally you can get it all the way tightened down where you don't even really need to use your tweezers to get it any more tight. We'll go ahead and check it with tweezers, but I doubt I'll be able to get it any more tight. Yeah, no. Then we just take our other small spring, set it on top of our little ball mechanism, put our contact on top, and put our casing to make sure everything doesn't move back on here. Well, if I can get it on there right. There we go. And you can hand turn this, but you might want to check it with your tweezers. Most of the time I can get it tightened down by hand all the way to the point it won't turn anymore, but I always like to check it with tweezers just to make sure it's completely, yeah, see there, we were able to turn it a little bit more with the tweezers. All right, so that is the Dreamer 1.5 constant contact switch right there. Pretty simple mechanism overall, but this at least type of design or type of approach to constant contact switches is probably the one you're going to run into the most out there. All right, now let's take a look at the Tarn Max switch. Now, like I said, this is a ball and plates type of system. And I'll show you what I mean by that right now. Comes with this key here, but you can use ceramic tweezers or basically whatever you can find that will fit in here. Get it turning. Once it's so far out, you can easily hand turn it. Once we get it off there, there's a spring there, and then that ball that's down in there. The first time you ever take this apart, this ball is actually going to be in this. Now, I've already taken this apart before, so most of the time it's sitting down in there if I've taken it apart a couple of times without firing it. But if you put it all back together and then use it, once the voltage flows through this switch, that ball will actually stick into this, and next time you take it apart, it will be up in there. Now, if you've never taken it apart before, these plates are normally coated in a dielectric grease. Same with this ball, and that kind of keeps that ball up in there as well. It's supposed to cut down on arcing for these plates and this ball. But I saw a video where Mooch did the original Tarn switch, which is very similar, and he actually washed the dielectric grease off of the plates and the ball, and he actually got less voltage drop, so it hit just a little bit harder. And I went ahead and tried it with this switch, and it is a noticeable difference. It's not major, but it is noticeable. So if the Tarn Max is not hitting quite as hard as you want, you might try kind of washing off the dielectric grease from these plates and this ball. See if that doesn't give you just that little bit of extra hit that you're looking for. Now, you can take this switch even farther apart. There's an Allen key screw down in there that will allow you access to this switch right here, the actual button, and there's another spring down in there and kind of a locking mechanism. For the most part, it's sealed up really well, so you shouldn't have to take it apart all the way very often, but I would recommend doing it every so often because this button right here will tarnish, and it's so flush to this casing that it'll start to get kind of crunchy and a little bit more stiff. But then if you take it off, kind of polish it all up and clean it, it'll get back to being just as smooth as it was from the very first day you used it. All right, let's put this one back together. Now this ball will kind of drop down in here like that. But like I said, the first time you actually put some voltage to it after putting it back together, that ball will stick to the contact plate there. Get it kind of screwed down, then we'll use our key here to tighten it up the rest of the way. You will hear a little bit of a rattle in there, but that's just that ball moving around. Like I said, once you put some voltage through it, that ball will stick to the contact and there's no rattle after that. All right, and then finally, this is the Trisha V2 switch, and this is a magnetic switch. This is probably my favorite type of switch out of the three. Purge also has a magnetic switch. It actually kind of looks similar to this. It has this whole kind of big casing. The top portion here is actually Ultim, I believe, on the Purge magnetic switch. With this one, this contact plate right here just kind of pops straight off there. It's got this silicone ring that's just kind of holding it onto this metal ring right here. Now, that's probably the only fault point in this switch, and I'm not so sure I call it a fault point because I've had this since it came out and I've taken this switch apart quite often, and this has never kind of stretched out on me or anything like that. You do get an extra one in the package, so I really wouldn't worry so much about this. It's just never really stretched out to the point it doesn't want to sit on there or grip. So I think it should be fine pretty much for the life of the mechanical mod. Now, it does come with its own key, but of course you can use ceramic tweezers if you would rather. Just kind of get them down in those grooves. Turn it, and we'll get our other contact point off here. All right, there we go. There's our first magnet. Now, one thing I will say, these are neodymium magnets, or just called neo magnets. These are rare earth magnets. They're permanent magnets, which means that they don't really lose their magnetism, or it doesn't weaken over time. And these are pretty much the industry standard. So you'll find these in electric motors. You'll find them in hard drives, spinning hard drives. So these are very, very good rare earth magnets. So kudos to Hellvape for actually, you know, kind of using really good magnets as opposed to kind of going a cheap route. Now the switch will pop out. You'll find your other magnet right there. Now these magnets don't really move without some hefty force. You do get extra magnets in the package, but once I found out they were neodymium magnets, I really doubt you will ever have to do that. The only thing I could really see going wrong is if they got damaged somehow. That would be about it. If one broke somehow or something like that. Now there is a condition with neodymium magnets where they can corrode under certain conditions, but those are not really conditions you're going to find your mechanical mod in. But when it does happen, they almost kind of powderize, but I wouldn't worry about this with this switch at all. Now you can see another spring right here. This is the canted spring that was similar to the one that's inside the Dreamer. Now this is just to help with conductivity, and given where it's at on this, it may actually be there to help with hot button as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's definitely there to help with conductivity, but it may also be preventing hot button in a way. All right, that's pretty much it. Like I said, this is a simple switch. What's going on here, if you can see down in there, the ring that's inside there is smaller than the hole in the magnet. Same on this side. So your switch, the edge of this is catching that small inner ring. You're gonna gotta turn it to get it to sit in there just right. But then when you're pressing that, the magnet pops up. And that screwed in, you know, your contact comes up, but because they're magnets and they're always attracting, that magnet on the inside near the button itself is not moving at all, just that one. And then the magnetism is pulling it back down. So that's why you don't need any type of spring or anything like that. And also why this switch will just last a lifetime. And I don't think you're really going to have any type of issues out of this at all. I really like magnetic switches. Like I said, Purge also has one, and that one is extremely good as well. And I've seen other ones that are similar to this one, where instead of having that little silicone ring around the contact actually screws down. And the threading for that screwing down portion is some type of Ultim or Delrin. But this works really just as well. You know, like I said, it hasn't loosened or anything like that. And you do get an extra one. So that is the Trisha V2 switch, guys. It's very clicky. Some people don't like that. But being a magnetic switch, really wherever you push on it, it's going to work. So I am very much a fan of the Hellvape Trisha V2 magnetic switch, or just about any magnetic switch. All right, guys, that is it for the 3 switches. Let's go back up top. So yeah, that's it, guys. Those are the 3 primary types of constant contact switches that you're going to run into with mechanical mods. And I wanted to go over this in case a new user went out and got a mechanical tube mod and it hasn't been one that I've kind of gone over and they're like, wait, what in the hell is going on with this switch? So figured I'd just go over the 3 primary types that you're going to run into. There are some more kind of exotic switches out there, and like I said, this Dreamer switch is kind of the most common. It's not always going to be in this kind of presentation and this setup, but the overall concept of how this switch works is pretty much the standard out there. There are also a lot of these ball and plate type of systems. Like I said, Unicorn Vapes is a big fan of them. And then also magnetic switches. There's not nearly as many of these as I think there should be, and it's probably because they're clicky and people complain about that. I don't know why, but I love magnetic switches. All right, guys, that is it. Vape on, and I will catch you all in the next one.